Hey, everybody. It's Monday, so I'd like to take a look at some of your questions and comments and respond to some of them. And the first one of the three for this week, a viewer wrote, "If I don't reflect my mother's view of herself as wiser, more moral, and more logical, she instantly goes cold. If I discuss the dynamic, I'm labeled aggressive or mentally ill. Since I stopped playing the game, the wider family has come to believe that I am troubled and unstable." Man, dude, well, actually, I don't know if you're a dude or a woman, but I'm just going to use the generic dude. I totally get that. I totally get that. And you know where you really see this kind of phenomenon in high relief, where the person who is the proxy, the person who is being undermined, is oftentimes the one who is identified as the troubled person, not the effigism, not the one who's actually doing the undermining. And you see this in workplaces all the time, where a manager or some superior of some sort will have a subordinate, whether it's an assistant or another person who is a direct report to them or something like that, just constantly undermine them, whether not giving them right resources, doing all kinds of, always shifting expectations, unrealistic deadlines, and then criticizing them for not being able to do their job well. And then what happens is that supervisor or manager or whatever will oftentimes talk to other people and be like, well, you know how they are. You have to really give them explicit directions, and then half the time they can't follow through, and blah, 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 blah. And so everyone else starts to see you through that lens, even though you may be fully competent and trying to do a great job, but it's like, how can I possibly succeed in this scenario when there's no clear sense of direction? Things are, priorities are shifting all of the time, and now I'm struggling, and now everyone thinks that it's because of me. And this becomes the dilemma, and this is what happens in a family system too, right? You have, I had my father one time call all of my relatives in Minnesota and said, don't do anything to help me when I was moving to Minnesota from Ohio. He just called everybody and said, whatever you do, don't help him. Here's all of the things that he's doing wrong and why he's bad and all of that. So they just recruit all of these other people to see the proxy as the bad one, as the failed one. And then when you're in that situation and you try to reach out for support or help, it's kind of like you're in an insane asylum trying to convince people that you're not the crazy ones. And so all the staff are like, oh, of course. Yeah, if that's what all the crazy people say, right? That they're not the crazy ones. And it can just be so mind-numbingly frustrating that you start to really question, is there something wrong with me? Am I really the bad one here? And why is it that I cannot get anybody to understand what is going on and just kind of get some reality testing here? And so I completely understand that your comment, and that's a very, very common thing with Effigism. So the next one, the viewer said, she may have tried to turn me into a small-minded, cruel person, but she did not succeed. I gave her the love, care, time, and protection she never gave me. Caring for her at the end of her life proved to me who I really am. Dear Mom, you did not break me. I love... I care, I help, you lost. I didn't expect myself to react so strongly to that, but man, good for you. And this is the real challenge, right? For a lot of people who grow up as proxies in these, in these effigistic relationships, right? Is that we internalize this, we can just internalize this failed state, and it's almost like the effigist then has all the power over our own sense of self, because we still are oriented toward trying to get some repair from them. And what this viewer articulated so beautifully is that, you know what, Mom, that's your thing. You being the effigist and trying to ruin me is on you. What is on me, with my side of the street, is that despite your flaws, I am not going to respond in a way that is organized around the way you did, the way around you acted. The way that I am going to act, the way that I am going to behave is not going to be oriented around you. Instead, I am going to take care of my side of the street. I am going to act in the way that is consistent with who I am. And even if that means that I have to be loving and considerate and kind to the very person who was unable to do that for me. That's a very, very powerful story. And this is the first time I'm actually reading that comment. So I wasn't prepared for how much that would land on me, because, man, that is so totally it, right? And to the viewer who wrote that, thank you for sharing that. I think that is a beautiful sentiment, and really articulates very well where we need to end up as proxies, as part of our healing journey. It's that our lives are no longer oriented around the behavior of the effigist, but rather we have distanced ourselves, allowed them to have their own insanity, and us being intentional about how we are going to show up, and not rely on the behavior of others to dictate our own sense of self. Beautifully spoken. Thank you very, very much. Let me go back to another one here. This is from another viewer. I already knew my mother was a narcissist of some kind, but my dad's dysfunction never quite fit. This is him to a T. My mother needed me doing something that she could show off, but my dad would freak out and need to take me down a few pegs. I'm not sure how I'm not insane. There's a couple things there that I want to really, I really want to kind of target, because I think they are important to understand, is that kind of that difference between effigism and narcissism. You described that so perfectly. We may have had the same parents. For a narcissist, it's like, I need you to make me feel great. And if you get you're an attorney and a doctor and you do all of these amazing things and run for Senate and become the president of the world and all of that, then it's like, yep, that's because I am so amazing. Look at my kid. Look at what my kid can do. That's what a narcissist does. If you try to do that same thing to an effigist, they would constantly try to undermine everything that you do, because it's like, the more you shine, the more that I feel threatened. The more that it's like, oh my God, my own incompetency is going to be revealed. So I need to constantly be knocking you down. And that is a real difference in the experience of being a proxy between a narcissist and an effigist. And I thought that was very eloquently put, because that is a real difference. And frankly, I have had many comments from people who have talked about, oh, isn't this just narcissism? And it's like, I get that some of the behavior from the outside can look similar, right? But it's just like somebody who has an anger problem, right? I mean, there could be a number of reasons why, people express anger. They may feel like their boundaries aren't being respected. They may have felt betrayed. They may, be fearing their own vulnerability. I mean, there could be a number of reasons why people get angry. And if you just look from the outside, you're saying, oh, well, they look angry, that must all be the same thing. It's like, well, no, it's not. It's very, very different. And what's interesting is that the people who have experienced effigism, their comments are just like, oh my God, this is exactly it, because narcissism doesn't fit. And the people who are kind of, this is going to sound a little bit harsh and judgy, and I don't mean it to be this way, but I think that people who just kind of focus on some of the surface behavior have a harder time differentiating between narcissism and effigism, because it kind of, at first glance, looks similar, but it's not. And I think that what this listener or viewer said is hits the nail on the head. And that last statement, I'm not sure how I'm not insane. And what I would offer to that is, there is probably a little bit of insanity there, like there is with me, right? It's like you cannot help but be affected. If you have a normal brain, you cannot help but be affected when you grow up in those kinds of situations, right? I mean, we will tend to respond to things and have our own, sensitivities that, later we're just like, God, man, sometimes I feel like I'm just going crazy. But the fact that you're not in some dressed up in a clown suit living under a bridge or something like that, speaks to the resilience that many of us have had to develop, right? And just relying on kind of some of our own just grit and determination and agency to try to sustain a life and keep moving forward despite all of this stuff that is coming at us. So these are the three that I just wanted to respond to today. And every Monday I'll be looking at three more. And thank you again for all of your comments. And I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye-bye.